Oh, thank you, Christina. Or Paul, whoever's doing that. Through August 21st, 2021. With the signing of this disaster proclamation, I have to click something on my computer here. Public meetings can continue to be held remotely per the requirements listed below. 1, standard 48-hour notice, except for an emergency meeting to all members of the public body, posted at the meeting location on the public body's website and provided to any news media that has requested notice. During the meeting, participating members must be verified and must be able to hear one another as well as hear all discussion and testimony. During open meetings, members of the public who are present at the meeting location of the public body must be able to hear all discussions, testimony, and votes of the members of the body. If attendance at the regular meeting location is not feasible due to the disaster, alternative arrangements must be made, and notice of the meeting must include the arrangements that will provide live public access to hear all the parts of the open meeting, phone number or link to Zoom, Teams, GoToMeeting, etc. At least one member of the public body, the chief legal counsel or chief administrative officer, must be physically present at the meeting location unless it is not feasible due to the disaster. Other members of the public body may attend in person or remotely. All votes must be by roll call, identifying each member and recording their vote on each issue. Standard meeting minutes of all meetings must be kept, approved, and made available for public review as usual, and a verbatim audio or video recording of all meetings must be made and available to the public review. The recordings are public records and must be maintained per OMA, Official Meetings Act. Okay, so now what we'll do is go ahead and take roll. Let's see here. So let's see. Andre Allen, please just respond by saying here or I, present. Demario Boone.
Present.
Shalandra Birch.
Here.
Okay, Terry Burnside. Chief, could you pronounce your name, please? Eshvaria?
That works. I'm here.
Is that how you say
Eshvaria,
it?
yes.
Eshvaria.
Eshvaria. Okay, thank you.
Varia.
Varia. Kevin Evans. Allison Galvin.
Here.
Nikolai Greaves. Nina Gugis. Chanel Hargrave Murray. Lorraine King. Lee Lang.
Here.
Okay. Tyson Parks III.
Present.
Kat Shidley.
Present.
Alexander Sierra.
Here.
Karen J. Wilson.
I'm here.
And Janice Sagardo, I'm here. So Lee Lang, are you the phone number 9322?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we have a quorum. And the first order of business is to approve the minutes to the July 8th meeting that should have been in your packet from Christina.
So moved.
Do we have, thank you, Tamara. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes for the July 8th meeting?
So moved.
I'll second that.
Demario approved it and raised it, and Karen seconded it. Okay, so we'll go through and I guess we'll vote. I'm just, Christina, do I need to call the people that aren't here, or can I just call the people that are here?
I usually just call the people that are here.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and I'm not going to go in alphabetical order. I'm going to go in the order that I see it on my screen. Is that okay? if it's a little out of order.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, Catherine Shidley.
I'll say okay, but I wasn't here at the last meeting, so.
Yeah, what do people do if they weren't here? Do they just abstain?
I believe she can abstain.
Okay.
Abstain then.
If they're not here, Janice, then they don't count.
If they weren't at that meeting, they just abstain?
No, incorrect. It doesn't matter. They're just approving the minutes. They were able to review it, but they don't have to abstain because it's just it's like a informal, just routine procedure. It shouldn't matter.
Okay, so they don't have to, if they weren't at the meeting, they don't have to abstain.
Correct.
Okay, Chief Boone.
Yes.
Okay, Shalandra Birch,
Yes.
Alex Sierra,
Yes.
Chief Eshvaria. I'm going to say it different every time. Eshvaria,
Yes.
Allison Galvin,
Yes.
Tyson Parks,
Yes.
Karen Wilson,
Yes.
Lorraine King,
Yes.
and Lee Lang.
Yes.
Okay, so those minutes are approved. The next order of business is to approve the minutes of the town hall that you all should have received, and that is, was on July 22nd, and that was also in your packet. So I'll go through the roll again. Kat Shidley,
Okay. I wasn't here, but okay, so be it.
okay, Chief Boone,
Yes.
Chief Eshvaria,
Yes.
Alex Sierra,
Yes.
Shalandra Birch,
Yes.
Allison Galvin,
Yes.
Tyson Parks,
Yes.
Karen Wilson,
Yes.
Lorraine King,
Yes.
and Lee Lang.
Yes.
Okay, so those minutes passed approval. Thank you. So now we get to the fun stuff. We now are going to welcome, we have a lot of new members. We're so excited to have a full committee now. I think what we'll do is go around and introduce the existing members first. Just say a sentence or two about who you are, what you do in the community, and why you're here. And then I'll go to the new members after that. So let's see, the first one I see here is Chief Boone. Welcome.
Hi, Chief Boone, representative for Peoria Public Schools, and I do a little bit in the community. Very happy to be here.
Thank you, Chief. Shalandra Birch.
Hello, my name is Shalandra Birch, and I am the Assistant Chief of Programs for the Illinois Department of Corrections. And I did a lot of juvenile work in the community before switching over to this side.
Thank you, Shalandra. Let's see, Saul Espinal, that's, you are city.
Yes, I'm a Peoria police officer, mostly work out of the East Bluff. I represent the police union board here.
Thank you. Welcome. The next veteran I see here is Karen Wilson. Welcome. Karen, would you like to introduce yourself? Let's go. Let's move on to Mr. Park.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
I was just asking people to introduce themselves, and I got to Karen. Karen, are you available to say?
I am now. 1 second. I walked away for like 2 seconds. Hi there. I'm Karen Wilson. I am Silver Life member of NAACP. I've been with the Police Community Relations Board now, I think 2 terms. This will be my 2nd term.
Thank you, Karen. Mr. Parks, welcome.
Hello,
Unmute
everyone.
yourself. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Reverend Tyson Parks. I pastor Peoria Bethel United Methodist Church here in the city. I'm a new resident. I just transferred here in 2019, and I am coming from Knox County, Galesburg, Illinois, where I was a bivocational pastor. I am formerly the Knox County compliance officer. I used to work for the state's attorney's office, and I work with probation. I worked with the judges and also non-for-profits. I would help get some of their fines, fees, court costs converted over to sweat equity. So, and I would connect them with non-for-profits to help the community. So I was an advocate there, just excited about the opportunity to serve here in Peoria. And welcome, Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Parks, for your work in the community. Let's see, Miss King, I see you up here. Would you like to say a couple words? Welcome.
Yeah, I'm sitting in my car because I just left a visitation for a formal council person. I'm Lorraine King, been on the mission, I think, for about 12 years, originally at large and now representing Council District 3, retired from the U of I College of Medicine and ICC. And I'm proud to say I recently received the Rotary Club Award as a Paul Harris Fellow for my extensive volunteer work in the community. And I want to welcome the Chief. Thank you.
Congratulations. You are quite the extensive volunteer.
Thank you.
Let's see. The next veteran I see here is Allison Galvin. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, sorry, I was just getting my dog to sit down. So my name is Allison Galvin. I am a treatment advocate for the National Youth Advocate Program. I've been on here for now a year on this committee. I am the vice chair, and if you guys ever need anything or have any questions about the committee, I am happy to help in any way.
Thank you, Allison. Okay, let's see. Have I hit all the veterans? I think I have. So let's see, to put the new people on the spot now. Lee Lang, would you like to introduce?
Yes, can you hear me? Okay. I moved to Peoria in 1990 to work at White Oaks, where I was a drug, alcohol, and gambling counselor until 2005. In 1997, for the next 7 years, I was the treatment provider representative to the Peoria County Drug Court. And the following year, I also became the treatment provider representative for the federal PATI program, which was a federal drug court program. I've retired several times. I'm here in this meeting because after House Bill 3653 was enacted, I read it and I had some questions. I talked to Rita Ali about it prior to becoming mayor, and she suggested I attend some meetings for this community, which I did, and I've read the minutes and decided that when I was asked to join, I said yes.
Well, thank you. And welcome.
Thank you.
Catherine Shidley, would you like to introduce yourself? Kat, unmute your microphone and start over. Sorry. Thank you for having it muted.
All right, I've lived in Peoria for more than 20 years. I've been a journalist most of my life, but in the last 7 years, I've spent teaching journalism and English at ICC. Since the pandemic, I have not done very much, but I'm trying to get involved in the community in some way or other. May I add that I really wish that most of you would show your faces, because it's bad enough that we have to Zoom ourselves, but as a newcomer, it would be really nice to see your faces.
Thank you, Catherine. Welcome. And I kind of agree with Catherine, but I'm guilty sometimes also of turning off my camera at times too. But if you feel comfortable, please show your face, but we empathize. And I went to Lee. I thought there was one more new member on here that I'm missing. Alex, did I get to Alex?
No, you didn't.
Okay,
But hey,
welcome.
thank you. Hey, everyone. My name's Alex Sierra. I wear a few different hats in this committee. I'm working in the capacity of Congresswoman Bustos as their field representative for our office. And then, just very active. So it's a pleasure to be here, and I look forward to learning from you all.
Thank you and welcome. I will introduce myself and save the best for last, Chief. I'm Janice Sagardo. I am an economist. I've taught at Bradley. I've done consulting work. I'm a trailing spouse. My husband moves. I follow. We've been here since 1998, and I do a lot of extensive volunteering. Also, Miss King. So I'm just happy to see all these new members, and I will pass the baton to our new chief. And Chief, we will have another introduction, so we'll probably be introducing you over and over again. So welcome.
Well, thank you for having me. I met some of you. I think I met Allison the other day on a march for Moms Against Guns. Obviously, I met some of you on some other meetings. Boone and I are supposed to get together at some point. So it's been a little bit busy and we haven't been able to catch up. So where's Boone at? Okay, Mario, we'll make sure this happens here sooner than later.
I got you.
Okay, so I've been in, it's been what, a week and a half now, I believe, that I've been here, and it's been quite a bit of meetings, quite a bit of work, a lot to do, but I'm excited to be here. I got to say the community's been very lovely. People have been very nice and very open, and I think everybody's ready for some change. And so I'm excited about what we're all going to be able to do together. So I don't know what else you want to talk about in my introduction. I came from Elgin, 22 and a half years as a police officer there. My last assignments, I overseen all investigations, drugs, gangs, undercover, you name it, we did it. I did quite a bit of everything in my career. But I think what I'm really known for and what my career has really been about is really that community engagement and community policing, and really being that bridge and that catalyst that connects the community to the police and working together. And I think from everything I've heard and all the phone calls I've gotten and all the meetings I've been in, Peoria is really ready to jump in head first and get to work on a lot of these things that we need to do together.
Thank you and welcome. I know it's probably been a whirlwind. I can imagine you've got your hands full. But we're happy to have you. And I think we all agree that community policing is a very valuable focus. Okay, so we're going to move on to unfinished business. And the first item is the recap of the virtual town hall series. I think they've been really pretty successful. Our most recent one is outlined in the July 22nd, the minutes to the July 22nd meeting. Chief Boone was gracious enough to talk about the Lights On program, and I think we all learned a lot about that. Becky Rossman with PCAV talked about their violence counseling and intervention teams. And Chris Johnson with the Peoria Police Department talked about the Focused Deterrence Project at the department's resource center. So far, I think they're going really well. We have a new town hall schedule. Our next town hall is scheduled for August 26th on Zoom from 6 to 7 p.m. And we will need a quorum in order to hold that meeting and be successful. I just asked Christina to share with all of our members the press release that Stacy Peterson put on the city's website. So you all should have that waiting for you when you log off. I will go ahead and read it, and I guess we'll introduce Chief Boone again and again and again. Chief Boone, Chief Eshvaria again. Sorry there, that was a slip. I'm so used to saying Chief Boone.
Yeah, I don't want his job.
I think I got that memo. Yeah. So just a little bit of a spoiler alert. I guess, well, yeah. So I guess I will read that now. Because, yeah, and then we'll move on to something a little bit different. So Chief will be our only guest. That'll be the first time we just have one guest. And the press release reads that the Advisory Committee on Police Community Relations will hold a virtual town hall on August 26th. Residents interested in learning more about the Advisory Committee on Police Community Relations should attend their August virtual town hall scheduled from 6 to 7 p.m. on August 26th. This month's featured guest will include Police Chief Eric Eshvaria. Chief Eshvaria was sworn in on July 30th. Before coming to Peoria, Chief Eshvaria served the Elgin Police Department for over 20 years, working in the Operations Bureau, Special Investigations, Major Investigations, and the Resident Officer Program. The purpose of this meeting is to provide an opportunity for residents to provide ideas and feedback to the committee and talk to the chief. The meeting will be in Zoom format, and attendees will need to request a link to participate. There will also be a phone number available for those who do not have internet access. For those who only want to watch the meeting, it will be posted on the City of Peoria YouTube channel, City of Peoria TV. The committee advises the Chief of Police, the Mayor, the City Council on matters to improve police community relations. As a committee that provides independent means of communication and assistance between the citizens of Peoria and the Peoria Police Department, engaging with residents is one of the top priorities for this volunteer-run group. And the rest details how to email Ms. Kirby at the peoriagovernment.org to get the link and other instructions. So since our primary objective is to get community members to participate in this town hall, we are asking our fellow members to post this on their own personal social media. I don't know how many of you go to the City of Peoria website to find press releases, but I just don't go there very often unless it's a meeting I'm going to be attending. So if you all would be so kind, if you have friends on social media, one of our biggest contributions, I think, to the community is to have meetings where we ask community members to tell us what's on their mind, and they can share those thoughts with the police. Representatives from the police. We do have other functions, and that is to review complaints. But quite honestly, we don't get a lot of that. So I think our real value added here can be in trying to engage the community with representatives and resources. Does anybody have any questions about the virtual town hall series? I think this is number 6 of our virtual town hall meetings. We did 3 in the spring, and we've done 3 in the summer. And we'll probably have a conversation about whether we want to continue those. So think about whether you think it's useful, and if so, what you think our contribution to the community can be. We have talked about if we can get off Zoom. I mean, there's pluses and minuses to Zoom. People can log in from their cars, Ms. King, right? They can log in from wherever they happen to be. And so that's a huge advantage, I think. But we really do have a goal of getting the meetings out into the community. And Mr. Chris Johnson did offer to host us at the Resource Center. That's one location. We've talked about many other locations around town once we can finally get off Zoom to go to go into the community to so that it's easier for them to show up. So we welcome any ideas once we can meet in person. Okay, so the other issue that we're facing under unfinished business, does anybody have any questions about the town hall series? Okay, so that we are facing a bit of an issue regarding attendance, and we asked Maz, and Maz, right now you're showing as Maz Patel, and I know your name changed, but I don't have it on the tip of my tongue here.
Sure, it's Perkins now.
Perkins, yes, I knew. Thank you. So we asked our attorney representative, Ms. Perkins, or Mrs., I guess at this point, Ms. Perkins, to help us regarding the attendance standard. And we've really been pretty loose about it because it's just been such a tough year. But our ordinance states that boards and commissions appointed by the mayor, members of such boards and commissions shall be automatically dismissed from the boards and commissions upon failure to attend at least 2/3 of all meetings held during any 1-year period. So we have not held people to account, but we're going to have to start at least keeping track of attendance. And so the proposal, I think, on the table right now is to add to our agenda essentially a spreadsheet that shows everyone's attendance, and then maybe in a year's time we will go over that and ask people if they, if they can't attend, if it's just not a good year for them, and if they want to try again another year. But the problem is we need at least 7 members to show up and to RSVP, or we have to adjourn. And it's happened several times, and we just don't want it to happen again. So I don't know if we need a motion to add that spreadsheet, Maz, or if we're just telling people that we're going to add a spreadsheet to the bottom of the agenda. Do we need a motion to approve that?
You don't, Janice. It's just for record keeping purposes. You already take attendance, or Christina does, and it's already in the minutes. It's just kind of easier for you to see when you put it on each agenda to track when it's on a spreadsheet. So no motion.
Okay, thank you. And so to clarify, and I know when I started, I didn't realize how important it was to RSVP to that email. So, and I know now we're all getting so many emails. If you could just, if you see that email fly by, just especially if you know you're going to come, please RSVP as quickly as possible, because we have a deadline. I believe it's Tuesday of the week before, where we have to actually cancel the meeting if we don't have a quorum who has RSVP to attend. So please do your best. And we really do appreciate your service. We just need, reliability. So thank you very much. Okay, so I guess, Chief, under new business, we're going to introduce you again. Is there anything that we've missed? I think the one thing that intrigued me, or one additional thing that you didn't mention in your introduction and introduction in the press release is, in terms of community policing, I noticed that you were instrumental in helping set up the resident officer homes. And I know that I did not even know about those until my first term on this committee. So I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that, or if anybody else wants to say anything that they know about, Chief, but I'll let you talk first, and welcome again.
Yeah, absolutely. The resident officer program is very near and dear to me. I did that program for 9 years. I was a resident officer. I lived in 3 different homes. I was also the sergeant over that division for 3 years, and I was very, very demanding. And so it's funny, as I left from Elgin, and some of the officers now will be a little bit more honest with their comments to me about what they felt. And they said, man, you were tough in the resident officer program, in the sense that I was very demanding in how we were going to engage the community, how we were going to be doing it fairly and justly, and that, we would measure everybody with the same ruler, but that we were going to be out there, and no matter what, we were still going to be out there and engage in a very positive way. And then when they look back now and say, well, some of some other bosses would do things a little bit different. And so, again, it's a very near and dear to me program. I forget when Peoria came out to visit. It was probably 10 or 12 years ago now. And I took them around. I gave them the blueprint on how we would do the resident officer program. Have you guys seen the signs outside the resident officer homes?
Why don't you act like people have never heard of it and start at the beginning and talk about how the residents live, the officers live there, and how we had a resident officer come talk to us one time and talked about how all the community engagement they have and their families live there. And
okay, I guess, yeah, I just assumed that everybody knew what it was. So no. All right, so the resident officers, the city owns or rents a home. The officer's given a cell phone, the officer's given a squad car, and there's a sign that's placed in front of the house with the officer's phone number with a direct number to that officer, not to the city, but to that officer. So the officer lives and works in that community, and the community should have access to that officer at any given time. The premise behind it is that you're not just a police officer who's policing a neighborhood who comes and goes, but rather you're a neighbor, a friend, a parent, somebody who the community can see as just another person that lives but works in the community, but is a resource for those community members. So it really builds up that relationships, transparency. So, when you talk about policing and there's this whole comment about should police officers live in the city that they work in and all that, there's many reasons why officers don't live in the city, and they're not always the negative reasons that people believe, but this really gives people an opportunity to put a face to an officer on a different level. Again, the officer, you're going to see the officer mowing his lawn, the officer's hanging out there having a barbecue, playing baseball with his kid. Kids go to school in the same neighborhoods if you have a family. And in my tenure, I had 3 kids that lived in these resident officer homes and went to the schools in the same neighborhoods as the kids that I was in the neighborhoods with. The community seeing me outside hanging out with my family. We had family events. Neighbors would come over. And so I wasn't just a police officer that came and went, but rather an officer that was a resource for those other questions or those other issues that would come up. And I lived through the issues with them, right? One big example that I always give is I lived in an area where I had to have odd even parking. And I left my car on the wrong side and I got a parking ticket. So I paid my parking ticket and I held on to that receipt. So when I got those complaints that, hey, oh man, I got a ticket, I said, me too, here's my receipt. And so I was able, you should be an example for the community. I wasn't above them I messed up. I left my car on the wrong side of the street. I paid my ticket. I kept my receipt. It was the best thing I ever did. Because anytime somebody complained, I got my receipt. And so I could show them my receipt on the ticket that I got. And they knew, okay, well, the officer paid the ticket. I should probably pay my ticket too and be done with it. And so again, you set the tone, you set the example. You're working in those schools. If you're in a neighborhood that has walking schools, I want to get with Demario. We've been meaning to get together. I really want to find out how the schools work here. I'm assuming the kids aren't bussed in for other areas, but rather they're walking and they're in the neighborhoods, I assume. And so those were the schools that we were at. And you really established a relationship with those teachers and the students, because they were the pulse of those communities, along then in conjunction with the churches as well. The churches that are in these neighborhoods, people are going to those churches. And that was another where you would be able to get the pulse of what's going on in the community, and you continue to build those relationships with the neighborhood organizations, with the churches, with the schools, the non-for-profits that were in the area, and whatever other businesses were there. So it was just policing at a whole different level. I hope that made sense.
Absolutely, Chief.
And so when Peoria came to Elgin, all that was explained. I don't know if anybody's seen the sign. I'm going to grab something to show you. And so if you can still hear me, what was interesting is when I came now to Peoria to see how they did it, they created it exactly to the T. And this is my sign when I was a resident officer that hung on my house, my last one. And if you look at the Peoria sign, it is exactly the same sign except with a Peoria patch. And that one has an Elgin patch. So they followed the blueprint. I'm still trying to figure out some other things on how we're doing stuff now because of manpower and those other issues. And I definitely want to be able to, I met with the Public Housing Authority just this week. We had a meeting. They've offered me some space in their new buildings that they're going to be creating. And we really want to look at as we raise our manpower in is to push more officers into some of those directions, whether it's a resident officer, whether it's a neighborhood officer that's really working more with our rental properties. As you look and you look at the issues that we see in a lot of these areas, it's not any different here than it is in other cities. A lot of the issues that we'll see will stem from bad landlords. You know, you have single mothers, and these are some of the areas, you know, if you're a single mother, you may not be owning a house and you're living in a rental. And we have to look at how is these rental properties being treated? What is going on? Are the landlords prepared? Are the landlords slumlords or landlords, right? And how are we working to work in getting services into those areas and providing a face for that community to really be able to work alongside us? It's not us working against those areas, and providing more services into those areas and building those community relationships. And so we are looking at that. Obviously, if you guys know, we're at 197 officers, down from where it was 220 is my understanding at one point, and 250 before that. And so there's some, you know, some hiring things that we need to be doing, some recruiting strategies that we need to put in place and really get these numbers up. And I really want to start pushing more officers into these areas where we're able to engage. So like I said, the resident officer program is near and dear to me. So anything that falls into that area, I really want to make sure that we are adding to it and not subtracting and taking away.
Okay, thank you and welcome. I didn't want to steer you just towards that, but that's one of the things you didn't mention in your own introduction. Does anyone have questions for the chief? I have a little bit of a motive to hold your questions until the town hall meeting, so everyone can, for the benefit of any community members who might want to hear the answers also. But if you have any messages of welcome or questions about what he said, why don't you do your little thumbs up? They
could ask the questions and ask them again at the town hall. That's okay.
We need to plant some people in the audience for the town hall too. So do your little emoji, your little hands up emoji if you want to talk, and I can call on you if I can see you. Lorraine, Miss King, and then Mr. Parks.
I just wanted to say to the chief that the first community town hall that we had was in zip code 61605, where a lot of the calls take place and where a lot of crimes occur. And in that meeting, people came and had lots of complaints and grievances, but for the residential officer program, they received the highest compliment, which I think is a testament to the effectiveness of it. And I hope that it continues.
Yes, like I said, I've had several meetings. One of them, we finally were able to have a meeting in person, and I want to continue to look at the resident officer. I love the resident officer program. I think it does a great deal of, it is of great benefit to the community. The work that's done by them, the many hats they have to wear in that position is phenomenal. There's a reason, if you were to go back to Elgin, who created this program, and look at the history of the resident officer program and where all those officers are, there is a reason that I think the Elgin Police Department has created, in my time there, at least 10 chiefs of police. And most of them, if not all of them, came through the resident officer program. Supervisory staff, because what it creates is a new mentality. When you're in policing, and I'm sure Chief Boone would understand this probably a little bit more than anybody else that hasn't been in policing, you know, sometimes officers want to work in silos. I'm in patrol, I'm in gangs, I'm in this, I'm in that. And then, and when they see that an officer is taking kids to camp, when they see that the officer is out there playing kickball, when they see an officer that's out with an ice cream cart giving out popsicles, they look at that and say, well, that's not really policing. That's not real police work. If you don't understand this until you get into that position, and now, because you've done these things, and now you show up at a house for a domestic, and that's a kid that you, and now the parents remember you, oh, that's the officer that took my kid to camp. That's the officer that came through here and gave some popsicles out. That's the officer I saw at the backpack drive at the church, right? That's the officer that brought some turkeys to our house every Christmas or Thanksgiving. Now, when you show up on these calls, or you have them on a traffic stop, or you're at a party and you show up for a call, they know that that's the officer they can talk to and they can trust because they've established that. And so it goes way beyond just the neighborhood. Those relationships are incredible. And I'll give you a story. So there was the Carter family in Elgin. Patrick Carter was his name. And he refers to me as his brother from another mother. This guy in his neighborhood, he was always a problem, always issues with Patrick. He had a family, kids. My relationship with him became so good and living in that neighborhood, I could stop at his house when he was grilling out and get some food off his grill. He introduced me to everybody. Like I said, to this day, as his brother from another mother, I take his kids to a camp that we would do every year. So we would take kids every year. It still occurs to, we call this a leadership camp. It was the resident officer program camp. And we would take kids, take them out of the city and take them somewhere else so they would learn something new and be exposed to something else that they probably wouldn't be exposed to if it wasn't for us to be able to take them. Again, this is an unconventional way of policing. And you know, these kids would come back and we would make them, not make them, but we would incentivize them to get to know other people in the camp, ask questions of the adults, introduce themselves, and we would have them come out of their shell and they'd learn how to go horseback riding, archery, zip lining, and these confidence courses. And you know, to this day, just before I moved here, a mailman showed up to my house. He walking up to the door, and I come out. Hey, how you doing? He's like, he stops and he looks at me, goes, Officer Eric. If you calling me Officer Eric, you were a kid. You knew me as a resident officer because nobody could say my last name, right? So imagine the kids. Officer Eric was the name. And so, Officer Eric, I said, yeah, what's going on? And he looks, I looked at him, I said, man, you Patrick's kid? Yeah, I mean, I said, you're grown. He comes up, he gives me a hug. He's a mailman doing the right thing. He goes, man, I appreciate all the times you looked out for us. You took us to camps. You took us to these things. And so and that's what makes this job so great in those contexts. It's that, to be able to see that a kid who could have went the wrong way, the recipe was there for disaster. Dad was gangbanging. Dad is the drug dealer and wasn't around. He'd go to jail. But to be able to have that relationship established, that to this day, they remember that contact and remember the relationship we had. Erases this uniform. They see you as a person. We'll never have an issue with that kid. And he's on our side. And so it was just nice to be able to see that. His dad just recently called me. Every time something happens, hey, Eric, man, I'm going through this. So he'll call, but I'm no longer in Elgin. So I'm here now. But yeah, so I love it.
Just two more comments. One of them is another program you have that I hope you continue is the Police Academy, because when I got appointed to this committee, I went through that. And so that helps the citizen, the ordinary citizen, understand much better the police perspective when they're trying, when we're trying to improve police-community relations. So that's a good program that you have as well. And then the final thing that I want to say to you, because you're new, is that when the police department officers have events like the Halloween candy giveaway, I would still encourage you to involve us whenever you can in those events, so we're interacting with you, with the community.
Absolutely. And the Citizens Police Academy, I'm not sure how we've done it here, but I want to make sure that we expand on it. I want to have a senior Citizens Police Academy. Love to have a Spanish Citizens Police Academy and a youth Citizens Police Academy. And on top of that, I think we need to have some use of force presentations. I think it's important that the community understands what the tools are that the police have, what they look like, why we have them, how we use force, and understand that. So when there's questions, when it occurs, especially for this group, and to really understand those things. And I invite this group, if you haven't done so, to make sure that you do a ride along with the police officers and understand what it's like behind that car, what occurs, why we respond certain ways, what the radio traffic sounds like, what that tension feels like, to also have a perspective on that also. So I invite you to do that. So I agree with all those things you said. And yes, I'm a big advocate for all of that. Communication is very big for me. We are hiring a new PIO, if you guys haven't heard. So new public information officer. I think we have, I gotta look at my schedule, it's crazy, but I think next week we're doing interviews. One of the main components that I'm looking at for our PIO is how will this PIO be able to rebrand, our engagement through social media. I think it's important. I will tell you, I don't like how our Facebook has been working up to this point. I don't like our webpage is horrible. There's no information. I'm working on a public-facing transparency dashboard that will feed all that information that coming out of this police department to our public. They should know what our use of force is. They should know how many arrests we've made. They should know what internal complaints we have. Not necessarily all the details, but how many complaints have come from internally, how many come from externally, our recruitment strategies, all that right at your fingertips. And we want the public to help us with information, but yet we're not sharing info. So we need to be putting all that info out there. They are who pays us. They are who are asking from us to police a community. So we shouldn't be holding this information. This is information that needs to go. They have the right to have this information, and we should be putting that information out. So I'm all about that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. As a matter of fact, I was going to ask you, I was going to take Chair's prerogative and butt in front of Tyson Parks and Shalandra here to ask you about that. And if anything else you want to say about that, we can cover in the police updates when you're actually talking about those things, if you have the chance. But I heard about that on the radio today, and it sounds very useful for the public to have information. So thank you for that. So next, Mr. Parks, you had your hand up, and then Ms. Birch, you had your hand up. So Mr. Parks first.
Hello, Chief. I just wanted to commend you on coming in and taking the bull by the horns. Appreciate the work that you're doing and the vision that you have. Just wanted to encourage you, and I know it's not going to be easy, but you are the man for the job, and we're appreciative of all that you do.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Parks. Shalandra?
First, I wanted to say welcome to Peoria and congratulations.
Thank you.
And I did have a question. I know you're dealing with 1,000 different things at once, but if you had any unique thoughts or ideas of how to address it seems to be a large amount of carjackings by juveniles. Just if you had any thoughts or ideas or something that you guys may have done in Elgin that we can kind of help you do here to address that.
I will tell you that we didn't have a big issue on carjacking, but one of the things that we really did is our public messaging is what was very important, is whether it was stolen cars, whether it was carjacking, whether it was shots fired, all those things is really educating the community on how to keep themselves safe, right? And so, you know, one of the, let me pull this document I got here. Sorry, I keep rolling around, but I got documents all over the place on things that I've been writing and things that I've been looking at. And, you know, I think when you're looking at any type of crime, specifically, you know, the carjackings and those things, and we need to look at what are we telling our community, you know, how can you make yourself safer in the situation when things like this occur? But it's also going to be a lot of the enforcement. Who are these key players? Again, any issues that we have, there's no one. What I always say, it's not a one trick. There's not one thing that's going to just change it. You know, you could arrest every juvenile that's out there. Is that going to change it? No. And we have to have, you know, a wheel doesn't work on just one spoke. We have many spokes to a wheel, and those spokes have to be tight, and they have to be working together to keep that wheel spinning true, right? And so there's going to be, whether it's, well, what are the services that we're providing, those wraparound services that I talk about. What are we doing with juveniles? Why are they out there hanging out? What is going on at the home? Because the carjack is that, from my understanding up to this point, is we're talking about young teens that are involved in this. And so why aren't they so tired in the evening that they got time to do this? Whether it's dealing with sports, getting them into STEM programs, getting them into other after school things, whether it's jobs, and working on those other angles to curtail that. But again, it's not going to be a one trick, one answer. A lot of this is going to rely on our community messaging, number one, how we gather intel and disseminate that in our field investigations internally, our enforcement strategies, and how we deal with that, our details, or how are we enforcing, what are we looking at, what's the data showing, what are our forecastings that we may see where this may be occurring. How then do we respond to these things? Our investigative operations, you know, our undercovers, our CSs, our CIs, our confidential sources, our confidential informants. How are we working those angles to find out who is doing these things or who's planning to do these things? You know, our technology initiatives, whether it's the use of cameras or in specific locations, partnerships with other organizations, obviously. And our communication and coordination with our state's attorney's office, and you know, because we see some crimes that happen, but then, you know, people are being released immediately, and it's just then a joke, because now it becomes a badge of honor, right? That I can do this and just get away with it. I'm going to go back and do it again. And so it's a lot of spokes to a wheel that we need to look at as we deal with all that. I'm not sure if I gave you the answer you were looking for, but there's a lot involved in it.
Thank you, Chief. Let's see, Allison's next, and then Alex. I did have one question also, just a follow-up on that resident officer program, and you don't have to answer it now. If you want to wait to the town hall, that's fine. But you talked a lot about how the resident officer program increases the public's trust of the police. I'm wondering, does it, you know, given the state of the world right now, does it also change the police's perspective and relationship with the public? I mean, does it make the police a little more trusting of strangers? And I mean, I'm just, these terrible shootings seem like they're provoked because people don't know each other. I mean, does it change a police officer and their demeanor when they encounter someone who might be a threat to them? Or I don't even know really what the question is, but does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I think what changes is, and I had these conversations with many officers over the years, right? So let's look at who police officers are typically, right? Typically, police officers are male whites. Right? We're not, when we recruit, I don't, and I say this, and sometimes I have to apologize because I don't want to hurt everybody's feelings. I don't have to recruit for white males. I have to recruit for females, and I have to recruit for male blacks and female blacks, and I have to recruit for Hispanics, females and males. But I don't have to, they line up. We're gonna go, that demographic is not a demographic I have to be very specific at recruiting, because they're gonna come. in that same sense, when you look at a community like Peoria or a community where I came from, where I was a resident officer, we were over 40% Hispanic. Here, the numbers flip, right? So it's 30% plus Black, and then another 10% Hispanic. Over there was kind of the flip, 10% Black, 30-40% Hispanic. And so when you don't fit in that demographic, and now you're a resident officer in those neighborhoods, it brings a different perspective to you. And so when I've talked to officers, and I'll use an officer that I without using his name, is, he came from a family, he went to college, he came from a different background than the community he was in, and he policed areas, but he didn't live in an area like that. So now living in that area and seeing that person next door to you is just really a hardworking person, and not maybe that stereotype that you thought, or that bias that you had from other engagements in just policing coming in and leaving. And so it creates a different idea of and perspective, because now you're ingrained in a different community that you weren't raised in a different community that, was different for you. And so for these officers, not only for him or her, but for their family, for their kids who come from somewhere else, they get to see, hold on. I will tell you, it's sad when you see that people don't understand other people's cultures or what they do, but when they're ingrained in a community and they're kind of not forced, but now you're part of that, get to see what it really is, and then say, well, we're all just people, we're all just the same, and we may value certain things a little bit different, right? And so that's what it really does. And so then that changes a perspective, right? Because in certain communities, I'll talk about in the Puerto Rican community, we're going to listen, the teens are listening to the reggaeton and the rap, and the kids want to wear their clothes a certain way, and their flat brim and their hat cocked to the side and all that. It's just part of a culture. It doesn't mean now when you see that, you think to yourself, oh, he's just a teen. Doesn't mean he's gangbanging. It doesn't mean that he's selling drugs. It's just an influence from culture, from a scene. And somebody just asked me this question in a meeting the other day and said, and why are these kids walking around with a hoodie on? I said, well, man, I have a 9-year-old. He want to wear a hoodie in this heat. I don't know. They think it's cool. And it doesn't mean, I said, can you imagine me telling officers to stop somebody because of a hoodie? We know what that's led to. And so there's still people that look at that and they look at it weird or funny, instead of stepping back and understanding that when I was a teen, I'm sure I was wearing some stuff that my family and people were looking at like, why is he dressed like that? And so everybody had their moments and their times, and we have to remember that it's not always something negative. And I think that's what changes in a person's mind when they're around people that aren't like them.
Well, that's good to hear. Thank you. Allison, I think you're next, and then Alex.
Yes, thank you, Janice. So I know we spoke at the Moms Against Guns March already, but I also want to, kind of more in depth, so also the committee knows. So I am a treatment advocate for the National Youth Advocate Program. We're new to Peoria. We are located on North Street. We provide, so they get referred through us either through a court order, probation officer, or their aftercare specialist, which is also known as a parole officer. We are located in the parole or the aftercare specialist office. We share office space with them. And we offer mental health services, which sometimes it is part of their probation/parole conditions that they have to meet. So we do offer that. So they're in a team of myself as a treatment advocate and a therapist. And we help wraparound process. So like Chief Boone has been great help to some of the families that I work with, because some of them might not have all the resources that they need. So I called Chief Boone up. I was like, hey, this family is in some desperate need of food. He put a nice big box together for the family for me. It's a family of 8. I drove there, drove it back, gave it to the family, made sure they had all their essentials that they need. You know, I'm helping mom find a job. I'm helping the kid find a job. You know, I'm helping all the other kids, you know, find some after school activities to do. Like Chief Eshvaria said, you know, it's important that they have these things. And as we all know in Peoria, it's hard to get that funding no matter what you're trying to do. So it's important that we kind of also advocate for the kids. Like, you know, we constantly hear the theme of, well, they're, you know, right now they are robbing cars. Well, why are they robbing cars? What's so, you know, important about these cars that they're doing? Some of the kids that I talk to, they say that, oh, they're robbing cars because, you know, they want to be able to go to A, B, and C, or, you know, they want to sell it for money because their family's in need of money. You know, these kids are reacting the way they are because it's a cry for help. I mean, their behavior is trying to say, well, you didn't hear me the first time. Well, I'm going to show you some behavior to show you that, you know, you need to see me. I'm not being seen. I'm not being heard, you know, and I'm very, very excited, you know, that we have our two chiefs, public school and Peoria Police, who have that mindset and that, you know, goal on getting that help. Because I mean, this is what we need. This is what the kids have been needing because they're not getting what they need at home sometimes. So it's important that, you know, all of us on here also, when we talk about the kids, we're not just talking about them, you know, in a criminal sense. We're also talking about them that, you know, why are they behaving this way? We need to figure out why. And we need to be able to, you know, provide services. So I want all of you guys to remember, you know, the non-for-profit I work for, but also that all of us have some type of resource or way that we can help provide, you know, for our community. It's important that we all know that. I mean, this is why we join these committees. This is why we wear all these hats, because we care about our community and we want to make sure that it prevails. Because, you know, sometimes we have seen scary things in Peoria and we wish we haven't, but we can continue with all the help. And I'm so excited to see Alex Sierra. You don't know me yet, but I have also been following all that you have done, especially with Councilwoman Jackson. I love that you guys are doing the first district tours, very vital for Peoria. Chiefs, if you guys haven't both done it, you guys, I mean, well, obviously Chief Boone, you were, you know the community well and stuff. But I recommend that everybody go on the tours to see, you know, exactly, you know, what we do see on a daily basis. But sometimes, you know, some of us, you know, don't live in those 61605 zip code, 61604, you know. So it's important that we all see it because it's easy for us to be here to talk about the different situations that we see on the street or hear from people. But sometimes all of us don't get to live those situations. So it's important that when we're advocating, we're not just trying to make decisions for them, but we're also kind of giving them options because, again, everyone deserves to have those options. Thank you, Alex, for posting the registration link. I truly appreciate you. But again, thank you guys, everyone, for always saying everything, because I know everyone here cares about Peoria. So I'm really excited to hear everyone what they have to say. And in the new business, I will talk about some things that we will be doing. But Alex, you can go ahead and go next if that's okay, Janice.
Thank you, Allison. Yep, Alex, I think you have a question for Chief.
Yeah, I do have a question. First, thanks, Allison, or Alice or Allison. I'm sorry if I got it wrong, but thanks for the love. Definitely want to encourage everyone to join those tours. Chief, I have a question regarding traffic in the city of Peoria. How do you plan to address four-wheelers and other vehicles like those that are really just not supposed to be on the street?
You know, that's an interesting question that I really don't have a full answer for and a grasp on yet. I know it's a problem here, like in a lot of other cities. What I love to see in my chats with people is how do we create a place where they can use them, right? Because the problem is we end up now, just like the issues that we have in the downtown when you got 200-300 teens and young adults walking around the downtown, and then people are complaining, right? where do we send them, and where do we get them and give them an outlet? And the conversations I've had and people I've talked to, it says, well, we don't have a way to get them somewhere. We don't have, and so how do we create something? Because just saying we're going to take it away isn't really going to resolve the problem, because they're still going to get out there and do it. And we have to find another avenue for them to have that outlet. And so I don't have a full answer. It's easy for me to say, we're going to go out there and we're going to enforce and write tickets, and we're going to seize these vehicles, right? They don't belong on the street. And that is part of it. But on the flip side, where can we somehow around Peoria, and am I driving in here to Peoria? I think when I came in, I love that I can drive through the country to get here. And I'm glad that you weren't saying, what am I going to do with traffic in Peoria? I wasn't sure where you were going to go with traffic, because traffic is great here. It ain't that Chicagoland traffic where you're stuck hours in the expressway. But that question isn't it's the easy answer is to say, we're going to continue to enforce, we're going to seize these vehicles, and we're going to fine. But that's really not the full solution. Because I've seen it, the bikes with the motors and the loud, and there is enforcement that needs to happen 100%. But it's really trying to figure out, where can we provide a place that this can happen, where they can go, it's a controlled environment, and they can still go have that fun and have that outlet, and provide an opportunity for them, if that makes sense. Alex, right?
Yeah, and I think that's I agree with you with everything. We can't just hard reinforce, because that worsens the relationship between the community and the police force. I am interested to see, how can the police station be proactive with the city and, incentivizing our city and bringing some attractions to give really my peers, because these are people who are my age. I'm only 22. So, give my peers and myself something to do, to occupy our time. So is there a opportunity, do you believe, for the chief, or not for the chief, but for the police station to work with the city to help bring some sort of attractions to Peoria?
I think so. I think a lot of it obviously is going to fall on commerce and who's coming into the city. But I think there's an opportunity. One of the things that if you're out this weekend in the downtown, I don't know, but you'll see is I asked that we have 2 UTVs here. I said, why are we using them? I want to see the UTVs out in the downtown, creating a presence. It's easy to get in and out of the thing, in and out of that vehicle, but really provide a presence where people will see it. I don't want officers, stirring up the hornet's nest, but what I want them to do is be out there and be seen, engage, and talk. Hey, how you doing tonight? Hope you're having a good evening. And just being positive and letting them see us out there, in hopes that our presence alone will deter some other big activity or a shooting or some big fight to occur, because they see us out there. And so as we continue to have our manpower be better, I'd like to see us out there on bike patrols and do those things. And so now when the public sees that, now we begin to have our bike rodeos, and we come into the parks and we engage that with our UTVs. We're able to come out into a community and say, well, where is there an area that we could meet that's in a community? And I don't know where those areas are. I know we have these big warehouse districts, but where are some fields or some areas where we can say, come meet us, and we're all going to go out and ride in these fields together. And so I think there's some opportunities. I don't know where they're at this point, but I think those are opportunities that we will be able to create, hopefully in the future, once we figure out where things are at.
I appreciate, really being root oriented instead of system. My tongue tied today. I'm sorry, it's been a long day, but system related. Because the truth is I feel like as a society, we look at these symptoms and we get so wrapped up in it, which is why I'm very excited that you've already created a relationship with the Peoria Housing Authority, because it does start at home. So I'm eager to see, where the police station is going to head under your leadership. And thank you for answering my questions.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Chief, I like that answer about trying to provide, you can't end the activity. You want to provide a safe place to do the activity legally. I come from a basketball family, and I was mortified when we got here in 1998 when the first summer hit and every single basketball hoop was taken down. We're not just talking about the nets. I'm talking about the hoops. I mean, for fear that a basketball game would break out. I don't even understand that. So I am with you. I think the program Chief Boone is doing to try to give the kids some positive activities is also a great idea, but I'm all for it. And
It's interesting you say that, because I went through one of the neighborhoods in my first week, and I saw that the basketball hoops were gone. I said, why are those hoops gone? And it's it's sad to see that, and we need to bring that stuff back. I get they're saying, well, we've had fights to break out there and shootings. Well, who do we get out there? And so that's been part of my. So what I've noticed in Peoria, if I could be very honest, is that everybody is working in silos. Everybody wants to do something, but everybody's working by themselves. I'm doing this over here. 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 And it just doesn't work. I said, so we're all trying to do, or at least what everybody is saying is work towards the same common goal, but we can't do it in silos. And so in the next coming weeks, some of these groups that I've been meeting with, I'm going to have a meeting with, because one of the things that wears on me is, let's keep talking. We'll have meeting A and then meeting B and meeting C to talk about meeting B, but we'll come back to another meeting to talk about A. And enough is enough. We need to either put action or get off the bus. We don't have time with the issues that we have in Peoria to continue the jaw jack. I'm sorry. We don't have that time no more. We need to, here's what we're going to do. Here are all the key players that can work. Who's willing to do the work? Are you willing to, you got the sports side of it. You got the educational side. You got the work side. You got the social services side. You got the, okay, let's all work together. And I can work with the same person you're working, and I can refer them to you, and we can all work together. And so everybody seems to be in silos, and we need to just come together.
I think people are ready for action. I think you put it very well. Thank you. Okay, so Alex, thank you. Alex put the registration information, a link if you want to go on one of those tours. Thank you for that. He put it in the chat if you guys can see it there. Okay, so if any, we can save the rest of our questions for the chief for the town hall. Thank you. We're going to move on to the next item under new business. Council member Kelly requested of our committee, I'm assuming he requested of all commissions, report on what we do. Allison Galvin, our vice chair, volunteered to put that together, and we would, she's going to make a very short presentation as to what we're including, really mostly talking about our town halls and our complaint process, which I will go over after she's done. If you all have anything that you would like to contribute, just please email us if we've left something out. So I'm going to turn the floor over to Allison. And Allison, you have a very rapid, because we still have the police updates to go through. Sorry about that. We've eaten up your time.
No, no worries. It's okay. So I'm just gonna go ahead. Oh, okay. So I guess I can't share my screen. It got, not sure if
You might be able to, Christina, is there a way? Can you activate it on at the bottom of your Zoom?
it says that host disabled for screen sharing.
Okay, I don't know who can activate that. Christina, can she share her screen?
I don't know.
Okay, well, why don't you talk to us?
Yeah, I'll just talk about it briefly then.
Thank
So
you.
not sure if you guys have ever used the website Canva, but it basically allows you to like design flyers and posters and stuff. So I kind of created a proposal, kind of like basically about our committee. The first, he wanted like an overview of our committee. So basically what I had written is exactly what, we had spent maybe a couple meetings talking about our draft for our committee that we did with Andre. So basically everything that we came up together, that we spent time, adding, I just put that in the overview of our committee. And then he wants a year to date, meaning like, our latest meeting, summary of activities and meetings. So I basically am going to go into each month and just say what kind of meetings we held, whether they were regular meetings and virtual town hall meetings, and if we had any guest speakers. I'm not sure how much detail. He didn't really give much detail on what he wanted from us. And then basically what our goals are for next year. So if you guys can help me think of some goals, if you guys want to email them to me either tonight or within this week, that would be great. But basically what kind of goals that we want to see out of our committee, whether that's us creating some more I know a lot of people, when we talked about like creating our draft, a lot of people had some new ideas, but I know we needed to follow certain points when we were creating that draft. But hopefully now with the new chief of police, we can get some new goals going and some new parts to our committee where, maybe if we wanted to have, or if we could ask to, be able to do more than just advise, whether our advisement can be more than just, oh, hey, it's a suggestion. Maybe I know I've heard some people talk about changing it from non-binding to binding, but things like that where we can make some change, where we feel like, our committee is actually being effective for the mayor, but not just the mayor, the police department, as well as for the chief. We heard him have some great ideas. So maybe we can create some goals to kind of help him achieve some of his goals. And then maybe we can see, if Mayor Ali has any suggestions or in any way that our committee can help, but where we are effectively helping, sorry. I remember, Janice talking about, I feel like sometimes, we haven't really had much, not many citizens come forward. So maybe we can try to, have that as a goal. How can we bring more, citizens to come to us or be willing to come talk to our committee? So kind of creating maybe like a new way for us to talk with them. I know we've had the virtual town halls, but how we have a section in our meetings where they can come and either give someone a letter or have one of our committee members talk on their behalves, or some way, somehow we can get that active engagement between the citizens and our committee. So if you guys think of any ideas for goals for this year and the next coming years, I would be happy to add those on. But basically, he just kind of wants an update on our committee and why we should still be a committee. So it'd be great if you guys could email that to me. And then we do have an upcoming, it's still being, whether it's in person or virtual, but it's called the Community Leadership School. Not sure if you guys have heard of it. Sheriff Asbel, he has asked us to speak to the Community Leadership School. And I have a PowerPoint that I've created, basically shows, what our name is, all of your guys' names, to show that you guys are all committee members, kind of how our background came about and how we were created, a composition of who is on the committee, like how we have one representative from each district. We have 3 at-large appointments. We have the chief of police. We have a representative of the Peoria Public School District. The purpose of our committee, how our complaint process works, some goals that we want to complete as a committee, who has endorsed our committee initiatives. We'll be talking about the virtual town hall meetings, and hopefully someday we can have those in person. Also, it shows a breakdown of our police districts, and then the place where they can ask questions or if they have any concerns or suggestions for us. But basically, that's what the PowerPoint will have, because it's like a 5 to 10 minute presentation. It can't be too long because there will be other people speaking. But please, if you guys have any suggestions or anything, please feel free to email me. I will reply back and my number will be on the bottom. So if you feel like it's easier just to talk over the phone with me or Janice, I mean, I'm open for it. Alrighty, thank you guys.
Thank you, Allison. And once we get those drafts done, I guess we'll circulate them to the committee. Okay, so moving on, thank you very much. Moving on, we're going to general police updates for the chief. And according to your agenda, it says current or pending formal complaints and other notable status updates the committee should be briefed on. And I know we're running out of time here, but I'm gonna briefly read, we have so many new members. I am gonna read to you the purpose of the Advisory Committee of Police Community Relations that is in the statute. And there is we can get to you if you didn't get it before the actual ordinance reference in the link in the ordinance. So just briefly, the Advisory Committee on Police Community Relations is hereby created for the purpose of advising the Chief of Police, the city, the mayor, and city council on matters concerned with improving police community relations, and to provide an independent means of communications and assistance between the citizens of Peoria and the Peoria Police Department in order to foster a positive working relationship between the community and the police. In the event a complaint of police misconduct is brought to the attention of any member of the committee by any citizen, such member should encourage a citizen to bring any complaint to the police department and cooperate in the police investigation of it. The member shall not become involved in the original investigation of the complaint. In the event that a citizen is not satisfied with the outcome of the investigation of their complaint, the committee may review the matter with the complainant and may discuss the matter with the chief and/or make a non-binding recommendation to the chief. The chief shall apprise the committee of the nature and outcome of citizen complaints occurring during the prior reporting period and shall work together with the committee as necessary to improve and streamline the complaint process. The committee may review police-related policies and practices with the chief and make non-binding recommendations for improvement. It is not the intent of this section that the Advisory Committee on Police Community Relations in any way infringe upon or duplicate the functions of the Board of Fire and Police Commissioners, the Chief of Police, or the Equal Opportunity Officer of the City of Peoria. So that's what Allison was alluding to. And Chief, if you have time, or if you were able to organize any updates, including the complaints, which ones were upheld or pending, whatnot, we'd love to hear about those now.
So, yeah, no problem. So what I do have is from the moment I took office here, I've had no complaints come through in my time here. I don't have any that are pending or formal that I can speak on at this point. The information based on complaints, I don't have that. Some of the other stats that I don't have any of that for you because none have come through since I've been here. But for our next meeting, I'll make sure that if there is some old ones or something, my understanding is everything was closed. There was an officer that there was some type of complaint that came on, but he decided to resign prior to my arrival, which was good because based on what I was hearing, I thought he was going to be the first one I needed to fire. So he is not here. And so on that, that's that. I did want to tell you guys that we are swearing in one officer on Monday. He's a former police officer from Bartonville, and so he doesn't need to go to academy. There's 5 that will be going sworn in on September 7th for the academy, for the September academy. And then there's 10 this week that will be taking the written test and the PT test. And so I just want to make sure you guys had that information also. So that's pretty much what I have for you guys on that. And
okay, thank you. We look forward to your dashboard also, because then that could be a place where we keep up on general, crime, I guess, in the city.
If you have time, I could show you what that dashboard kind of looks like. I could share it on the screen with you if you'd like to see that.
If you can share your screen, I'm not sure we know how to do that, but if you can share your screen.
I'm pretty sure I could share my screen. Let me see, because I
Okay,
see it here, but let me pull it up. So you can get a general idea of what I'm talking about. Let's see if this works for us here. All right. I have it. Let me share my screen. Host disabled. Yeah, participant screen share. Who's the host?
I'm the host, but I don't know how to turn it on.
Who's I?
Oh, Christina.
Oh, let me walk over there. Hold on. Give me 1 second. We're right next to each other. Let me see if I can.
Christina, while we're waiting, do we have any citizens who are going to address the committee? Just so I can maybe eliminate one agenda item while you guys are working?
I did not, Janice.
Okay, thank you. So we
I
can.
think that's all you have to hit. Because what you hold on. Let's see if this works now. If this works, then, yep, here we go. Thank you, Chris. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep, got it now.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So when you look at this, Christina, can you close that? I think we got so much echo between us. I apologize. I left the door open between our office. And so, thank you. So when you look at this, so so obviously I wouldn't say this, but this won an award because how great it is. Just recently, we're in communications. My IT guy here is in communications with the company that we used here for this. But when you look here, immediately, this is connected to our CAD and to our GIS mapping and all these other ways where it can have live data. And some of this language that they speak is way over my head. I just know it works. And so that's why I have the IT guy communicate with them. But when you look here, we'll be able to look at your dispatch calls, our response to resistance, employee complaints right off the top. And then we can have whatever dashboards essentially we want. And I think what, community likes to know and understand is, so if we go into crime data, right? So there's a web mapping. So we can put however we want this to look. Well, for us, for example, we could go into gunfire incidents if that's something we want to see. We could see our year-to-date, 30 to 90 day. You can see that there ain't that many over there compared to here, but this is information and you can see a list of where, when, map it. And so it begins to provide our sex offenders all the information that we would be able to share with the public in a one-stop shop. Trying to go back. So, for example, we want to talk about community policing. We would be able to, here's our resident officer program, show where the house is at, kind of show what some of the other things they're doing. We could provide videos that we want to educate the community on, connect to whatever officers, beat officers, our neighborhood officers. Again, so it provides our professional performance, our complaints. So if you want to see how many complaints came from internally, what you'll find is what I've seen here is kind of the same thing. You'll see that we may have more complaints from internal than we have from external. So that shows the community that we're policing our officers and holding them responsible. And you see that here, for example, that originating complaint came from internally here versus the 6 external complaints that came. You can look at the findings, what was the end result, what kind of discipline was given, employee data. And so we should be able to have all this information. So, and our community should be able to have this information. And so I think it's important for us to really start looking at creating something like this for Peoria. And so that was just to give you kind of a glimpse of what it is I'm really talking about when I talk about this dashboard. So I hope that kind of helps. We could go in deeper, but it'd take a long time to get through it all.
Thank you. I think that's a nice preview. And I think I think it's just a new form of communication, is letting the community know what's going on in our own community. So I think I view that as a valuable piece of communication. So thank you for that. And that could be something, if you want to do a brief preview of that during the town hall, we could see that as well. Thank you.
Wow.
So Christina told us that there's no citizens who have requested to address the committee. Well, I guess the other thing, Chief, is I guess you showed the disparity between internal and external complaints. I think there's also kind of a question is, why aren't people complaining? If people do have complaints, do they feel safe complaining? And I think that's a whole nother topic, maybe for another day,
Yeah.
but making sure people feel safe and comfortable complaining. So,
And I think it's offering the opportunity. So like on the dashboard like this, it gives you could walk in, you could do it online, you could do it anonymously. We'll take the complaints, right? But we got to make sure it's accessible for people to be able to make a complaint if they choose to do so.
absolutely, yes, thank you. Okay, following in Andre's tradition, does anybody have any items for the good of the cause? I see it's a little bit after 7, so the good of the cause might be dinner. Does anyone have anything they'd like to add before we request a motion for adjournment? Okay, seeing no little hands up, does anyone, would anyone like to motion to adjourn?
A motion.
Okay, thank you, Allison. Who would like to second?
Second.
Thank you, Demario will second. Okay, I'm just going to take the roll of the people that are here, and I'm going to do it out of order again. I see Catherine first.
Yes.
Okay, I'll say yes. Chief?
Yes.
Chief Eric?
Yes.
Tyson?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Allison?
Yes.
Chief Demario?
Yes.
Shalandra?
Yes.
Alex?
Yes.
Lee? Lee, can you hear us? While we're waiting for Lee, did I miss anybody else? Lee, are you there? Can you hear us? Moz, can I assume that's a yes?
Just don't counter, but it doesn't matter. Have
It
enough people to read it.
Okay, it doesn't need to be unanimous. Okay, you all, I think the motion passed. Have a great evening and we'll see you at the town hall. Thank you very much for attending and for your service. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Janice.
Good night, you all.
Everyone.
Bye.